Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Strategic Growth Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Golding. I'm joined by my special guest today, Hannah Schmitt from the Treasury OKC, the co-working community for driven women. And we're going to talk about that a lot today, but we're also going to talk about the fact that we're going to do an event together on the 28th of this month, a strategy review. But we're going to talk about that second. First, we're going to talk about Hannah and the Treasury and what it's all about, how it came about, and her entrepreneurial journey as well. So first of all, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Welcome to the Golding Group Strategic Growth Podcast, featuring expert insights, interviews with thought leaders, and business plan triage. Hosted by Kyle Golding, award-winning entrepreneur, CEO, and chief strategic idealist for the Golding Group.
Give everyone a quick introduction, who you are, and a little bit about your background and what led you to starting the Treasury OKC.
I'm Hannah. I've been in Oklahoma City about 11 years. I'm originally from Texas.
We won't hold that against you.
Thank
You're here
you
now.
so much.
That's all that counts.
I'm here now. I got married in 2012, and my husband was working in Oklahoma City and said, "Look, we'll be here a year. It's okay." And I'm still here. So
over a decade.
Over a decade.
Right.
Then we said we'll never have Okie babies, right? And we have two, and I'm expecting a third.
Okie babies are the best babies.
Yes, and once you have Okie babies, you're like, okay, I guess I live here now.
Here. That erases all those years in Texas.
Yes, it really does. It feels more like home every day. And then especially now having a business and community there. So I'm a journalism major, journalist by background. Journalism jobs when I moved to Oklahoma were non-existent.
Right.
So I did some writing here and there, but in 2018 opened the Treasury. So I saw, I was working a remote job at the time and saw women having more flexibility than ever in how and when and where they worked. I saw remote work, really on the up and up, especially for women.
You said 2018, so that was pre-COVID.
Yes,
that
pre-COVID.
remote work was happening. Obviously, leaps and bounds difference post-COVID.
Yes, it's very different post-COVID, but just a lot of women taking on freelance and contract work. But then there were really no local resources in place for what those women needed. Right. So, at the time, I really thought that because what I needed at that time was physical space and community. But then when we opened, I realized women really needed education and programming too. If you work corporate, you have a boss who plans learning opportunities for you and is often telling you, hey, go to this training, go to this lunch and learn, get this education. And when you're working for yourself or you're remote, you have to find that on your own. So having a little bit of structure around you and someone offering you those opportunities to learn could make a big difference. So that was one of the first things that we started doing whenever we opened the co-working space, was really bringing in local speakers who could really share their expertise in areas that would help women kind of level up who are in those remote jobs or who are entrepreneurs.
So you identified a gap in the market, a niche that you could fill, solving a problem. These are all the good reasons to start a business, right?
Yes.
Before starting the Treasury, was co-working or community building really a passion of yours, or something you fell into in this process?
Co-working was not necessarily. I fell into that just by way of, I was looking for office space. Private offices were all too expensive for me at the time. And
especially downtown.
Yes. And did not solve the problem of being lonely. Why was I going to rent, a $500 a month room to never be motivated to go, because I was never going to see anybody else. And I was learning that there are people who really feed off the energy of other people whenever they're working. And so those people typically default to a coffee shop. But then there's a level of growth like that you just can't achieve there. Having important client meetings or team meetings can come across kind of unprofessional at a certain point when you're at a coffee shop. At that time, I was writing and editing, so I was doing a lot of interviews and recording them. And I would get home and play back the recording, and it's like a huge chunk of it gone from the coffee being ground or someone talking next to us. So I really needed space. But when I was going to co-working spaces, trying to find the right spot, none of them were really that different from a coffee shop, to be honest. When co-working spaces sell day passes, and there's nothing wrong with that model at all. It works great for a lot of spaces. But with day passes, you're still surrounded by strangers. And there are some resources that are available that could be important to you, but there's still just not that community vibe because people are coming and going, and there's people who are traveling in the city and just need a place to work for the day. So
and you still have people on your left and people on your right and people walking through if you're trying to record something or be quiet.
Yeah. So community did become very important to me, especially in that time, being newer to Oklahoma, having the flexibility to work remote was great. But then where do you meet people? You're not meeting them at work. I just had a feeling that there were other women who were in that same situation. And then certainly post-COVID, a lot of, women have moved back to Oklahoma and are like, okay, well, college made this easy, but I don't know where to find relationships with other women. And so that's just been a really great thing to see develop, in addition to solving those problems that we talked about.
So you mentioned writing and editing. Mm-hmm. You're also the publisher of The 100 magazine.
Yes.
So let's talk about how that came about, because it's very interesting. It's very different, a different approach to publishing a magazine and who you spotlight in the magazine. So how did that come about?
It is very different. Coming from a journalism background, I was very familiar with special publications highlighting women for their accomplishments and their achievements. I see that our culture really loves accomplishment, right? Like we just love to share those success stories, which is great. But whenever I was working in newspapers, I was always just a bit thrown off by having the people who are featured on these lists just not really matching the type of person I was meeting on the journalism side. And then coming, being at the Treasury, the same kind of thing. 40 under 40 lists or power lists, and they're all great. And I love that women are achieving all of these wonderful things. But it just wasn't matching the type of woman who I was meeting who is like silently doing really important community work. Right. I had this idea to do a list of 100 women featured for their character instead of their accomplishment. Character isn't something that we celebrate all that often, and really wanted an opportunity to do that. But
something we want in the people we associate with.
Yes.
We expect high character from them, but we don't reward them for it.
Right. We don't reward them. We don't recognize them. Women especially to be, it's been interesting, we've done 2 issues now, so 200 women. And I would say probably almost every woman over 50 we've reached out to has said, I'm old, right? And I think that's the point. We need your perspective. We need your wisdom. We need your insight. But
and over 50 is not old.
It's not. It's really not.
A lot of those lists are 20, 20, 30, 30, 40, 40. Mm-hmm. But yeah, 50, they could be professionally in the workforce for a long time.
Yeah.
And definitely influencing others for a very long time.
Yeah.
You're maybe not another 50 years.
You're not going to reach peak influence for a long time. And so it's so funny that we do kind of glorify these young influencers who really don't have the wisdom and the insight that we all could benefit from anyway. Not that I've met very intelligent 20-year-olds for sure. But telling women post 40, the feedback that we get in reaching out to these older women really tells me that culture has told them that after 40, like, you're kind of just thrown away. Oh, right. And we don't want that. We want them to feel important. We want them to feel validated. And I want every woman to feel like her story is important, regardless of her title or her salary, her, if she's married, unmarried, whatever the situation is. So it was an opportunity. The magazine's been an opportunity to meet a lot of, resettled refugees, women who have graduated through Emerge program, all these women who, have done incredible things. And just don't have a PR team shouting about it.
Back to the co-working space, because it's in a really great location. And another part of the Oklahoma City story right now are like the districts, and you're on Film Row, so near downtown, near where all the action is. Were you, again, looking for that type of scenario, or did you fall into it?
We fell into it. I liked this area, but probably would not have pulled the trigger on a lease in this area without having met an amazing developer, Eric Flusky, who was really the first developer or landlord I met who believed in the idea of a female-only space. Because that was the biggest challenge at first is anyone I talked to about this idea, I felt so strongly about it being female only, and everyone else was trying to talk me out of it. And so to meet someone who, didn't want to talk me out of it. And in fact, he said he had purchased a lot of property on Film Row. And he said, would you like me to lease everything to the corner of Sheridan to female-owned business? And I'm like, well, yeah, that'd be great. But, I knew he's a businessman.
Right.
He's not going to.
Right, yeah. You need people who can pay rent.
Yes. And, sure enough, space after space after space, all female entrepreneurs. He really did believe in what we were doing. He believed in championing the other female entrepreneurs who were looking for space, was just incredibly fair and generous even in our term and our agreements, and supporting has been, he and his wife Nova have been mentors. I mean, I've never owned a business before. I had no idea what I was doing. So for them to really walk alongside and mentor, honestly, the space could have been anywhere once I found them.
Right. The situation was more important. Right?
Yes, for sure.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So working only with females in the co-working space is a differentiation. You set yourself apart and created a distinct value proposition for the Treasury. Mm-hmm. I think that's a great thing. I think it's a very smart move. And for any business, too often the failure in businesses is they try to be everything to everyone. Mm-hmm. So here you did. You created a distinct differentiation and something that was authentic as a female owner, first-time business owners. You were along with everyone who's going to be working in the co-work space. You're kind of in the same boat they're in.
Yeah. And I will say that in this time of businesses feeling a lot of pressure to embrace inclusivity and just making sure that there's space for everyone, it has been difficult at times to say we're somewhat exclusive to females. Mm-hmm. And there have been times I've gotten some pushback, not that men have ever wanted to join the co-working space. I think they just want to, push my buttons, but
or just work in a beautiful space, because the space itself is beautiful. And again, it's centrally located. It's in a cool district. It's near downtown. There's all kinds of reasons that someone like myself may say, I would like to have a place there.
Yeah. And men are certainly in the building at times. We rent conference space to men. We don't accept men as members. And I have really found, when the audience is exclusively female, and this goes for once you do decide your target market and you're speaking directly to them. Mm-hmm. I mean, you talk differently and then their responses are different. Right. And when it's only women in the room at our events and our programs, or even just working, the conversations are very different. And women don't have that many opportunities to be in spaces that are exclusively female in a work environment. Right.
One of the ways that men are invited to come and participate in the Treasury, like myself, is the 28th of this month, we're having this event. We're going to do our strategic plan review. Mm-hmm. So we met a couple of weeks ago. We're introduced by a mutual friend, said you guys should maybe find a way to work together. And I'll tell you guys, Hannah quickly was like, how can you help the members of the Treasury? You were quickly trying to create more additional value for your members. And of course, I love talking about strategy and all the things that come along with it. Do it on this podcast all the time. So we came up with this idea for this event. Men are invited. I won't be the only male there. You guys are invited. Yes. You can't be members of the co-work space, but you can come to this event. 4/28, we're doing 10 to 11 in the morning. Mm-hmm. We're going to do the strategy review for business owners and anyone wanting to start a business.
Yes.
When I talk, I love to get to Q&A as quick as possible. In my head, there's a little bit of background, a little bit of some definitions, and then we get a lot of Q&A and a lot of speaking directly about the actual businesses that the people in the room are running and some of the things that are working well for them, and definitely any challenges they're having that we can help them overcome as part of this hour we're going to spend together on the 28th.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm most excited about, because I know there are a lot of people who could really glean a lot from a conversation with you, but they are not going to necessarily hire you to review their strategy. I think, the Treasury being, 4 or 5 years old, these things and these processes that we set in the beginning have changed so much.
Right.
And so the value of being able to revisit that and have an expert really walk us through that, I think is tremendous to any business in any stage, just to kind of do a reset, a review. I'm really looking forward to that. And then obviously hearing the challenges of other business owners, I think is always helpful.
Yeah, for sure. It helps. You get your questions answered, and then other people are saying, I had that same question, or I've had that same challenge. Or maybe even after we're done, one of your members might say to a member who asks a question, I've been through this. I can offer my experience as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
When we get in a room and we all talk about stuff, it's beneficial for everyone. So
yes.
What we want you guys to do, we want you guys to sign up, RSVP for the event. It's a free event, but you do have to RSVP. And we are going to, like I said, we're going to have a little bit of conversation about what strategy is, why you should be reviewing it on a regular basis. You definitely can't write your business plan in 5 years later and not have ever looked at it. Doesn't benefit you, anyone, not pointing any fingers at anyone. And in as much Q&A as possible, we want to answer questions. We want to give exact answers and examples for people who are running their businesses now out of the co-working space or in any other scenario. So we've created this event for anyone who is starting a business or about to start a business, and they need to write their strategy, they need to create a plan, or an existing business, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, 12 years for the Golden Group, right? Mm-hmm. We can always review our plan. A lot of people do that first of the year, which is good, but a lot of people put it off too. Like their taxes, they put it off to the last minute. Yeah. So we're going to give you guys an excuse to have a conversation about your strategy, your strategic plan, how it folds into your overall business plan, your marketing efforts, all the things that come along with it, and a nice, safe, friendly. I'm a friendly person. I'm a nice speaker. I'll answer questions in a lovely way, and maybe share common experiences that everyone in the room is going to have as well.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking forward to, and we want to have this conversation today on the podcast because we want to invite all of you to the Treasury on 4/28, 10 and 11 in the morning. You have to RSVP. Don't just show up. RSVP. Let us know that you're coming. We have to have enough space for you. If you miss out on this one, there's a lot of other programming that the Treasury does on a regular basis. So you guys make sure that you're following them on social media. Check out their website as well. If you are a woman-owned business who needs a place to hang out, a community, some partners, you absolutely want to know about the Treasury. If you're a male or otherwise business owner who just wants to be better connected and find resources in Oklahoma City, there's a lot of programming that Hannah does at the Treasury that is co-ed. It's for everyone. Yes. So you guys make sure to check out the Treasury. You guys are on, you're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, all the places you would expect a co-working space to be. So check out Hannah, check out the Treasury, and if you're interested in having a conversation or listening to input from us or from the other members about strategy, strategic planning, business plans, etc., make sure you attend on 4/28, 10 to 11 in the morning at the Treasury. Any last thoughts for the folks, Hannah?
I don't think so. Just hoping to learn a lot on the 28th.
There you go, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Thank you for being on the podcast today.
Thank you, Kyle.
Thank you for listening to the Golden Group Strategic Growth Podcast. Please subscribe so you never miss an episode. Follow the Golden Group on social media. For more information, past episodes, or to contact us, please visit thegoldengroup.com.